This meeting of the Littleton Licensing Authority will come to order. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Bradish.
Here.
Vice Chair Cole.
Here.
Authority Member Levere.
Here.
Authority Member Mather. Here. Authority Member Odell.
Here.
Authority Member Peterson.
Here.
Authority Member Webb.
Next item of business is approval of the agenda.
I'll move that we approve the agenda.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Next item of business, certification of the minutes. Do we have a certification?
Chairman, there are no minutes on the agenda this week.
We'll skip that item. Next item of business is item 7A, new liquor license applications. Resolution to approve a liquor license application for King Solomon Liquor Incorporated, doing business as King Solomon Liquors, 4760 West Mineral Avenue, number 30, Littleton. We have attachments A through G.
I'll move that we enter exhibits A through G into the record.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Applicant, ready to make your case?
Yes.
Would you state your name, please?
My name is Chris Holchin, attorney for the applicant, and I have with me Zeniba Walde, who is the principal of the corporation. Her husband, Solomon, they're both signed up on the roster, the sign-up sheet. Solomon may be helping with some of the testimony if we need him. We have two witnesses. One is a representative of the landlord, and the second is, is Max Scott from Oedipus Inc., who did the petitioning. So we're going to have Max talk about the petitioning first, then Alex Gonzalez on behalf of the landlord will come up, and then finally Zeniba and I will finish up. So our first...
Would you like to bring Max up?
Yes, our first witness, Max.
Stand up after sitting for so long.
Max, I have to swear you.
Oh,
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this authority is truthful?
yes, thank you, and good evening to everybody. And I'd like to start my testimony with thanking staff. You're always great to work with down here, and you can't always say that about some of the jurisdictions in the state of Colorado. Have you folks got a copy of our report? And on page 5, is it a colored copy? No? Well, I'll talk about it anyway. Page 5 is the defined neighborhood, which is somewhat circuitous due to the platting of the streets. And page 6 is the city's map. Our map was on top of the clipboard, followed by the city's, and then the appropriate petition format for either business owners or managers or residences. We also had a briefing sheet. When we do an off-premise license or retail liquor store, people want to know two things. What's the square footage and when's it going to open? Square footage relates to product mix and price and so on and so forth. When we do the presentation, we also include the size of the store on our map and then on the respective petitions. So after someone is ordered as a party in interest, we ask them if they favor or oppose, and then present the petition, and they can sign as they wish. And we encourage them to write in a reason. We have a write in the reason, and it's the people who oppose that commonly write in the reason. I'd also like to remark, if you have occasion to look at our petition format, just above the signature lines, we have a statement as to why the survey is being conducted. In this particular case, CRS 1247. If you have any complaints about us or further questions, then it provides Colleen Norton's name with a telephone number so they can follow up on that if they would like. Item number 1 on page 2, I'm telling my client that we did what we were contracted to do and we were paid in advance. Thank you very much. This is the total number of doors that we did. Under qualified contacts, we had 40 businesses favoring, 0 against, 143 residences favoring, 7 against, and then in the reason, we had 4 no need, 1 abhorrence of alcohol, and 2 commercial usage objections. But that horse is out of the barn. It's already zoned for that. So in this survey category, we have 95% favoring the issuance of the license, and this is very unusual for an on-premise license. They tend to get more conservative results for a number of reasons that I can explain if you would like. Eliminating all but the needs and desires responses, the survey result is 97% favoring the issuance of the license. The margin of error is 2.2, added in, subtracted out. Both figures are well over 50% and show a need and desire for a new license. I should also remark, per the city's survey of the existing outlets in the defined neighborhood, there are no other retail liquor stores, right, Colleen? So I would argue that that's prima facie cause to issue the license right there.
Yet there were some people, as I read the petition, some people said there's enough, there are too many already. And
yeah, I know. That's the way it is. That shows we're honest. Any questions?
I have none.
I have none at this time.
You do have one? No. Oh.
No.
Well, I'll dismiss myself. May I leave?
You are dismissed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Don't run away. We may come up with a question later.
What's that?
Don't run away. We may have a question later.
Oh, so you want me to stay? Oh, all right. Thank you. Good evening.
Our next witness is Alex Gonzalez. He's representing the landlord, and he's going to talk a little bit, just briefly, about the center and the existing tenants, the location of the store within the center. Alex, you want to state your name and title and be sworn in?
Sure. Good evening. Alex Gonzalez with Evergreen Development out of Phoenix, Arizona.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this authority is truthful?
I swear.
Thank you. State your name again, please.
Alex Gonzalez with Evergreen Development. We're excited to be here today because we are the developers for the corner of Mineral and Platte. Today we're opening the apartments, the multifamily piece, and we also did the residential, the retail piece. When we were working on it's a small building, it's 10,000 square feet, can probably house 4 to 5 tenants. When we were working on the ideal tenant mix for this property, we certainly wanted some nationals, and we've got them. We've got Dunkin' Donuts, we've got Subway, but we also wanted some uses that made sense for the immediate population, which in this case are our apartments and the residences right across from them. We feel that there was a void in the area for a liquor store, but a high-end liquor store, because that's what the demographic requires. And with Solomon came on board, we were excited to see that he has experience and that the product mix that he wants here is what we feel the area needs. We executed a lease in record time, and when I was asked to come here and say some words on his behalf, I really gladly took the opportunity. So as the landlord, we're excited about the project. We're excited that he's joining the project, and I'm here to answer any questions or provide more color if you need it.
I just might mention that for the authority's information, Alex has brought in a few of the leasing brochures that talk about the national retailers, Dunkin' Donuts and Subway that are already in place.
Yeah, and Dunkin' Donuts open on Monday.
Mr. Gonzalez, can I ask that you speak into the microphone, please? Thank you.
And how many businesses are going to be in that retail area?
4 to 5.
4 to 5?
4 to 5.
4 to 5.
It's a small building. It's 10,000 square feet.
You said an upscale liquor store. How would you define an upscale liquor
Well,
store?
I think that as a landlord, when you hear the word liquor store, and we're from Arizona, there's always a certain stigma that immediately pops to mind is, selling, natural light at a discount. That's not what we're seeking here. This is something more of the wine component in their merchandise mix, high-end vodkas, that type of product.
If I might approach.
How long of a lease is the tenant signing?
This lease is for 10 years with options.
10 years with options.
How many total spaces do you have?
Right now, we've got 3, and the vacancy that we have can be just eaten up by 1 tenant or by 2.
So you have 4 total?
We've got, right now, 3 with a vacancy of, we're 66% leased, and that last third could go to 1 person, like an end cap, or just split between 2 other tenants.
So this business faces to the north,
Exactly.
and then you have some businesses that face to the west also?
Not really the end cap.
Everything faces to the north?
Exactly. You've got, imagine a shoebox that's facing Mineral, and then on the sides you just have the sides of the end caps.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Alex gave us a good lead in because we have some photos of the store that the family did in Aurora, which was sold recently. I mentioned that Solomon, Zaniba's husband, is here. He actually owned that store, but these are family businesses, so both of them are involved. But I just wanted to bring those so that you could see what he has done in the past, and we'll talk a little bit.
Take a look at that.
Yeah, we'll talk about the inventory mix and as we go on with our presentation.
Thank you.
There are basically 3 pictures there. There's a duplicates of a couple, I think, but it'll give you an idea of how nice
Like
the
a
store.
liquor store.
Yeah, how nice it's going to be inside. Zaniba, do you want to come up, please?
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this authority is truthful? State your name, please.
Yes. What is it?
Your name.
My name is Zainab Abude.
Can you just make sure you speak into the microphone so we can hear you? Thank you.
So you're signed into the witness list?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I couldn't read the name, that's why I asked. You can put your hand down. You're sworn now.
She's nervous, as you can tell. Anyway, why don't you tell the authority a little bit about your experience in the liquor industry?
Yeah, before my husband is liquor store. I work too much over there. It's a long time I work.
You have to speak up a little bit, I think.
My husband work before. I lot work over there and 3-4 hours.
So the family actually had 2 liquor stores before, right?
Yeah, yes.
And so you worked in both of those and helped him set them up and get them going and that sort of thing?
Yes, I work over there.
Did the stores ever have any liquor violations?
No, before he's working.
No liquor violations, right?
No.
Okay. And have you taken the TIPS training class?
Yes, before, yes. Another liquor store, yes.
Yes. Okay. Why did you guys decide to do this location?
Because it was nice traffic jam and nice building over there to work.
nice building, and then,
Too much
do
live
you know, and a lot of traffic
a
going
lot
by
of traffic and neighborhood.
the neighborhood? Okay.
And-
And how many, do you recall how many cars go on
Almost
Mineral?
two.
What the traffic count is?
A lot. I don't know.
I was told that it was about 26,000
26
cars
Per day.
per day and 10,000 on Platte Canyon. So,
Sorry.
You might want to, excuse me, you might want to pull the microphone down a little bit because we need to be able to hear you.
okay.
Thank you.
How big is the store?
3,000 feet.
And how many cooler doors is it going to have? That kind of gives us an idea of the size.
24.
24?
is a door.
Okay. And of course, everything is going to be brand new.
Brand
because-
new, brand new.
Yeah. And hopefully, and it will be as nice or nicer than the Saddle Rock store, which is the Aurora store that the authority is seeing. How many employees are you going to have?
The new one. Maybe 3. Me and my husband, maybe another.
Okay. And how are you going to handle the liquor training?
Colorado.
I think we talked about you're having someone come out to the store and give the training to everybody.
Yes.
I know
it's a
Max does it,
Max
and
does it, and
Colorado
license.
Beverage does it.
Beverage, something.
Right. When do you plan on opening?
Maybe May 1st, maybe.
Maybe first?
May 1st, yeah.
And what is your ID policy going to be? When people come in the store, when are you going to check their ID? Are you going to
check ID?
You're going to, I mean, if somebody walks in, are you going to ask them for their driver's license?
Driver license,
And
military passport, military something, ID, passport, driver license, and passport. That's it, 5.
So the five.
That's 5.
The 5 kinds
Yeah.
is all you're going to take?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to check everyone's ID? You're going to just check some people's?
Passport, ID. That's
Are you
it.
going to check everybody's?
Everything. Yeah, everybody I see.
Okay. Okay. And what are your business hours going to be?
10 and 10. 10 a.m., 10 p.m.
10 to 10?
Mondays, Friday, 7 days. 10 and 10.
10 when? Monday through Friday?
Mondays, Friday.
Or
Mondays,
Saturday?
Saturday, yes.
Okay. And what about Sunday?
Sunday in 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. 8 o'clock in the morning, 10 and 8 o'clock.
Okay. Okay. How many security cameras are you going to have?
I think 10.
10?
Yeah, 10.
Okay.
How many did she say?
10.
10?
The nearest store to this location is where? We know there's no stores in the defined neighborhood, but where's the nearest store? Is there another one that's, it's outside the boundaries, but it's,
Dunkin' Donut and,
is it very far away?
yes. Which one?
Well, there's one that's really far to the east,
Yes.
and one
yeah.
that's far to
it's
the
far
west,
away, yes.
and then there's a smaller one.
Smaller one.
Yeah, that's about half a mile away, but it's smaller than your store. I don't really have any other questions, if the authority does.
Can
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you a few questions to make sure to confirm what I thought I heard. You said it was, store is 3,000 square feet?
2,000 plus feet.
And you said you'll have about 3 employees,
Yes.
and that you intend to have all of them trained
Yes.
in TIPS training.
Tips train, yeah.
Okay. And you said your policy will be to check everyone's identification?
For ID, yes.
Yes. And you said the hours would be 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Sunday?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Will you be in the store all the time that it's open, or are you going to delegate management to somebody else when you can't be there.
I don't understand.
What he's asking is, who's going to be in the store all the time? You?
Me.
You or
in the morning, me.
And your husband?
Me and my husband, yes.
And then one.
So one or the other will
For another,
be there at all
maybe
times.
You said that.
And maybe there'll be a
Another
part-time
Part-time,
employee.
another boy.
So you'll be the registered manager, is that correct? Or
Pardon?
isn't there a registered manager?
Yes.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that's what,
Yes.
okay.
This license is going in your name. Your husband has previously had his name associated with liquor stores, but he is no longer owner of any liquor store retail establishment.
He sold his store in November of last year.
Okay, so
They haven't received their permanent license, so technically his permanent is still in place. But he did sell it in November, and they got a temporary permit.
okay, and the source of funds was a gift from your husband to you to start this corporation to sell retail, correct?
That's correct.
And just wanted to confirm that all tax implications of that gift have been met, and you're not anticipating, or there's nothing that you're not anticipating that will be that tax that generally can happen from a gift is accounted for and not going to affect the solvency of the establishment.
I don't believe so, no.
So you will have 100% of the ownership of
Yes,
this store.
yes.
Yes.
Your husband has 0.
He may, I'm going to be frank with you, he may join the corporation after the other license, after the other store gets their permanent license, and he has no interest in it at all.
But to confirm, neither you nor your husband have had liquor violations in any of your stores?
No liquor violations in the stores.
No.
No, okay.
And again, how long have you worked with your husband, having experience with retail liquor sales?
How many years have you had?
Before working?
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah.
3 years.
I'm sorry?
3 years.
3 years, thank you.
We have a floor plan of the building. Is there a basement?
Basement? Mm-hmm. No basement.
No basement, okay. So you have the main entrance, and then you have a back door.
Exactly, yeah. Back
Okay.
door, yeah.
And will the back door be locked during business hours?
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to be storing any alcohol other than what's out on the shelves and in the coolers?
The store?
I believe that there's a storage area
There's
Oh, okay.
on the diagram.
Okay, that's it.
Most of the liquor will be on the shelves where it can be sold, right? I have no further questions. Anyone else?
I have no
Questions?
further questions.
I think we're finished, unless you have another witness or you have anything you want to follow up with.
No, I mean, we have these, all I can say in conclusion is that, we had such strong petitioning results and no other liquor stores in the area, so I think we have met our burden of proof on this matter.
Sorry, I just want to follow up. When did you say you anticipate opening?
When are you going to open?
May 1st?
May 1st?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
State approval.
Yeah, we understand that.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
I can't find any reason to reject this application.
Chairman British, This is a public hearing, so can we just confirm that there's no one else here that would like to testify to the authority on this application?
Members of the public?
Yes.
We don't have anybody on here.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wanted to testify? Okay, thank you.
All right, so there's no testimony from the public. Is the authority ready to make a motion?
Mhm. No, I don't.
I have a sentence missing from the... I got it. You have the full motion now.
I'll make a motion.
He's got it.
I move to close the public hearing and that a resolution of the Littleton Licensing Authority be approved, which grants King Solomon Liquor, Inc., doing business as King Solomon Liquor, 4760 West Mineral Avenue, number 30, Littleton, Colorado, a retail liquor store license contingent upon approval by the Colorado Liquor Enforcement Division and based upon the following findings of fact. 1, the notice of the hearing was properly posted and published. 2, that the applicant has possession of the premises and the premises are suitable for the requested license. 3, that the needs in the neighborhood are not now being met. 4, that it is the desire of the adult inhabitants of the neighborhood that the license be issued. 5, that existing similar liquor licenses in the designated neighborhood are not adequate. And 6, that the applicant is a person of good moral character, record, and reputation.
I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? As I started to say earlier, I see no reason to deny this application unless somebody else would like to raise an issue with it. Let's go ahead and take our vote. Will the city clerk poll the authority, please?
Chairman Bradish?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cole?
Yes.
Authority Member Levere?
Yes.
Authority Member Mather?
Yes.
Authority Member Odell?
Yes.
Motion is carried, unanimously approved. Good luck to you.
Good luck.
You got a lot of work to do between now and May. Next item of business is item 11A, which is a continuation of a hearing. This is the sanctions portion of the case of Vasilios Frangiskakis, doing business as Old Mill Brewery, 5798 South Rapp Street, continued from our January 14th and February 28th. January 28th, I'm sorry, January 14th, January 28th, and February 2nd hearings of this year. Does the city prosecutor go first?
Typically.
Maybe you should explain what you're doing, Counselor, what you're doing in this portion of the hearing.
I will be arguing what my position is on sentencing and why my position is that way.
Thank you.
As we discussed a little bit last time, I thought this was a serious enough case that it needed to come to the authority, and the authority needed to hear all the facts and evidence and make a decision. Typically, my policy is to offer some sort of plea stipulation. In this case, I thought it rose above and beyond any case that I've seen in the 16 years I've been doing liquor authority prosecutions. And I thought it needed to be decided by the board after a full hearing when everything was explored. Based upon the hearing, based upon everything that the authority heard and everything you're going to hear tonight, it is my position that this license needs to be revoked. Not suspended, it needs to be revoked. There will probably be arguments on the other side that this business is not nearly as bad as some of the other businesses in Littleton. I would disagree wholeheartedly with that, and I'll give you some of the reasons why. The first thing I'd like the authority to consider is the past history. There were statements made by Vasilios on the record that, he's had a clean history. That's not entirely correct. He's had a history in Littleton. I believe most of the authority members heard those cases. In 2010, we had a violation. It was case 2009-006988. He was charged with overserving and conduct in establishment. This was a bar fight, and the parties involved, after they were contacted by police, one of the gentlemen blew a .148, the other gentleman blew a .245 on scene, and then at the hospital blew a .418. We reached a stipulation in that case where the licensee pled to the overserving. 1 day of suspension was held in abeyance. At that point, that was one of the cases I resolved. I kind of took into account
Excuse me, I'm going to have to object, but this was under a different liquor license, so this is not relevant. It's on a prior liquor license.
I want to hear this.
As to that comment, if they would like to assert that position, it was a prior liquor license, I would submit to you that's absurd. It's the same owner. There was a change in the name between, I think, 2010 and 2012.
I'd like to cite some authority for my comments being absurd because the law is the law. And if you want to cite some authority and some legal authority, I'm happy to hear that.
Well, and as I'm going to show you, it's a pattern of conduct. And the pattern of conduct is the licensee, and the board looks at the whole history. This second case that has been before the board was in 2012, December 9th, 2012, case number 2012-003429. This case was sale to intoxicated person and conduct in establishment. They pled to sale to intoxicated person. This is the case where the woman was served 10 shots of Jack within 49 minutes. This is the case where she slid off the bar stool and was taken outside by Old Mill employees, where it was determined she needed medical attention. It's my position that police probably would never have been called had she not needed medical attention and she not been so incredibly intoxicated. So we have two cases within less than a 5-year period. Now let's talk about Peter's behavior. We talked about Peter's behavior a lot during this hearing, and what we know of Peter's behavior in the police reports is a pattern of what Peter does. Peter drinks, he gets drunk, he yells at people, he yells at customers, he throws them out. The one thing that is similar in all the prior cases, as well as the case today, is that Peter says that he's the owner. He says that he's the manager. Consistently, over and over and over again. Some of the cases, and you have some of these as exhibits. We'll start with the most recent, Exhibit D, case 2014-005189. This occurred on October 18, 2014. Dylan Means is an employee of Old Mill. Peter says to him, "I'm the general manager." Different than what we heard the other night, where he's just the bar manager. Peter is upset. He's yelling. He's cursing in the bar. He's upset about the fact that Miss Cashman and him apparently broke up. He made threats to Dylan Means that he was going to beat his face in, and was throwing things in the bar. Dylan Means got fired, no longer an employee. Peter stays on as an employee. I bring this to you because it shows a pattern of conduct. It shows Peter acting unprofessional. It shows Peter submitting himself that he's the general manager, the owner. He's in charge. December 8, 2013, I submitted to the clerk, I'm not sure which exhibit it is, statements from Police Officer Carmody and Nancy Clearwater, both employees of the City of Littleton. In these statements, it shows that Peter is once again drinking on the job. They describe him, they don't describe him by name, but they describe him as a tall, thin man with a long, dark hair ponytail.
Ms. McCarthy, these haven't been, they haven't been entered yet. Absolutely. They will be exhibits M and N. M being Nancy Clearwater's and N being Bob Carmody's.
And I'd move to submit these to the authority.
Do we have a motion?
Can we still submit exhibits, accept exhibits at this point in the?
Yes.
And what are they?
What are those exhibits?
So Exhibit M is a written statement by Nancy Clearwater, and Exhibit N is a written statement by Officer Carmody.
From the incident in question?
On December 8th, 2013.
I'll move that we accept them to see what's in there.
A second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So these statements essentially show a continued pattern of conduct where Peter's intoxicated, he's loud, he's disruptive, to the point where these two patrons basically are going to refuse to go back to that establishment. Exhibit C I presented was 2013, February 22nd, 2013, case number 2013-000976. In this particular case, Peter was drinking once again. Peter was yelling that he's the owner. He was attempting to kick customers out. He was telling them to get the hell out. He took the plates from them. He was yelling, and a witness reported that he looked like he was going to strike them. This witness intervened. The witness indicated that Peter was intoxicated, and then Peter kicked that witness out. I spoke to the witness on the telephone. This witness has prior law enforcement experience. And the only reason that came across is I asked him, based upon what he was telling me on the phone, it was very clear that he probably had law enforcement experience, and he indicated he did. Once again, Peter drinking, Peter claiming he's the owner, Peter yelling at customers, being disruptive, kicking people out. Exhibit B, December 9th, 2011, case number 2011-006266. This case involved an argument over a Groupon. Peter once again was yelling at the customers to get the fuck out. Witnesses relayed that he hit the customer in the face and threatened to shoot the customers. Once again, pattern of conduct. And then I have a newer case, and I do not have copies that just came to my attention. And this is, once again, just for informative purposes. It happened on February 5th of this year, case number 2015-000611. In this particular case, a girlfriend of Jonathan Cavalier, that was one of the witnesses who testified, came to the bar was intoxicated. There was some sort of a disruption outside. That's not very concerning to the city, but what was concerning is Officer Farmer, who is present today, was on scene. The brewmaster came out, was incredibly disruptive, was impeding the investigation. This girlfriend was intoxicated. The allegations were that she had driven there with a child. They were attempting to investigate that issue. And then at one point yelled at Officer Farmer, "What are you going to do, beat me up like Peter?" Once again, just shows you a pattern of behavior and shows, I'll tie that into some of my concerns regarding possibly not revoking the license. In talking about this case, so we've already talked about the facts, we've talked about the law, but if you would just indulge me, I took the liberty of writing out the law. I was very brief. It's kind of a combination of 3.2 and 47.900. It explains the things that you can and cannot do and the things that are required. On the left is the law. I have checked all the things that are at issue. I've checked every single item of the law that's at issue except lewd or indecent displays. Lewd or indecent is when someone is naked or performing some sort of a sexual act. That is the only thing that was not committed in this case. This particular case is extremely aggravated. It is one of the most aggravated cases I've seen in the city of Littleton, looking at all other licensees that have been before this board, and it is one of the most aggravated cases I've seen in my career. This is not a typical conduct in establishment case. This goes well beyond a typical case. The licensee is going to argue that there are other conduct in establishment cases that occur at other bars, but what type of cases are those? Those are typically cases where we may have someone that is visibly intoxicated, and maybe there's a fight, or a combination of that, but that's it. They're fairly straightforward. Some of it, you could argue, is the responsibility of the people that were fighting or the people that were drinking, but not necessarily all you could put on the licensee. In this particular case, they violated every portion of this law. Every single portion except for the lewd and indecent display. We have Peter acting as the manager, acting like the owner. Why is that important? Why have I hammered that the entire time? It is my position that he has a higher standard of conduct. He's not an employee that's working for $8 an hour that has no ties to the business. He is the owner's son. In addition to that, he holds himself out as the owner, as the manager. That was pretty much not controverted, except for Ms. Cashman, who said, well, he's the bar manager. Well, we know he's a manager of some sort. And in all the statements he made in this particular case, as well as the other cases that I presented to you, he made it clear that he was the owner or he was the general manager. It's a higher standard of conduct. He is required to act in a certain way and is not doing so. Why should Vasilios be held accountable for his son's behavior? Vasilios put him there. Vasilios knew about all these cases. He's the owner. He knows what's going on. Peter had a 2012 DUI. Is he going to say he didn't know that we had a drinking problem and that there was an issue? He knew. But yet he kept him there. And he only fired him because this case was brought forward. But I think he made it very clear in his testimony that he didn't think Peter did anything wrong and that he would be more than willing to bring Peter back in if he wanted to come into the restaurant through the kitchen to say hi to his dad. He'd be more than willing to have him there. When we look at what happened, we talk about Peter. We have drinking on the job, we have visible intoxication, we have screaming at the staff, we have screaming at the customers, we have fighting with the customers. We have failure to cooperate with the police department. He attacked a police officer and threats to kill PD and Littleton Fire and Rescue. When you go down, he's an employee at a minimum. I would argue he's a high-level employee. He's the manager, he's acting as the owner. He's not conducting himself in a decent and respected manner. He's showing visible intoxication. He's showing rowdiness. He's showing undue noise. He's showing disturbances that offend the average census of an average citizen. He doesn't ever immediately report what's going on. In fact, he refuses to cooperate with Officer Carlson when Officer Carlson comes in. And he committed 2 violations of disorderly conduct. And I spelled them out for you. 18-9-106. Coarse, obviously offensive utterance, display, gesture in public that incites an immediate breach of peace. When you are screaming and yelling at someone, threatening to kill them, that is disorderly conduct. Section C talks about fighting with another in a public place. He fought with many in a public place. Katie Cashman, general manager, another person, high level of accountability. We're not talking an employee. We're talking someone who's running the business. Lies to PD about what she drank that night. Lies to the PD about what the witnesses drank that night. Failure to control the bar. Failure to control Peter, who was apparently under her that night. Failure to report, never called. Allowing employees to drink. Then we get to Bill, the owner. Failure to cooperate with PD, yelling and impeding the investigation, inability to work with the PD. Not accountable at all for his behavior, the behavior of Katie, or the behavior of Peter. There has been the argument that the criminal actions of Peter have nothing to do with the licensee. They have everything to do with the licensee. The fact that Peter attacked a police officer has everything to do with what is going on in this business and whether this is a respectable business. I submit to you that there has not been another attack of a police officer by any licensee within the city of Littleton. I have never seen it in any of the jurisdictions I work, and I work in 16 of them. He attacked a police officer. So while all this other stuff is important, right there, they are undeserving of a license. Let's talk about the future. So if the board decides to suspend and we allow them to reopen, how does that look? We have an owner who has said he didn't do anything wrong. He said that the police department are liars. Police department has said they can't work with him. They have to send 2 officers in for the safety of their officers. I think it's clear as we attack police officers, yeah, we need 2, we maybe need 4 or 5 going in every single time. So they're allowed to reopen. We have no behavioral changes. We have Peter supposedly removed, but Peter can come in and visit. But yet we have no changes here to Ms. Cashman. We have no changes here to Vasilios. No accountability, and they can't work with the police department. The board suspends them. They reopen. We have created, or we have allowed, a dangerous environment to continue to exist. A dangerous environment for the customers who will get screamed at, will get thrown out, and will possibly get attacked. We've created a dangerous environment for our men that we entrust to keep peace in the city of Littleton. They can't go in there in the hopes of being safe. It just happened on February 5th. On February 5th, an employee is basically taunting the officer. What are you going to do, beat me up like you beat Peter up? Revocation is the only way we can ensure that the city is protected. It's the only way we can ensure that the customers are protected. We take away a dangerous, disrespectful business, and we make sure our officers are protected, we make sure customers are protected, and we make sure we send a message that this will not be tolerated. This is not the average conduct that the license authority sees. This is well beyond. A couple years ago, Liquor Authority heard a case on a liquor store owner. Liquor store owner who had a drinking issue. This license authority immediately suspended his license. He 3 times had gotten drunk. The 3rd time, he plucked out his glass eyeball and he threw it at the cop. This authority, I believe, would have revoked his license had it not been for the sale to Jessa Harry Corp. That case is nothing like this case. That case is nothing like any of the cases you've heard. This is not the type of business that Littleton needs, wants, or desires, and we need to shut them down. Thank you.
Again, my name is Peter Menges. I appear today on behalf of the licensee. And how I would like to proceed is I would like to first, I tendered some exhibits that I would like the board to consider.
Mr. Menges, did you want these numbered individually or as a packet?
Why don't we, the bulk of them are letters from citizens, and we could maybe list those all as one exhibit.
And then the graph.
The graph as
Okay.
the second exhibit.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Absolutely. These will be exhibits O and P.
Sorry, can you just repeat so it sounds like O will be letters. Could you describe again what P would be, Mr. Menges?
P is a bar graph that was actually one of my witnesses will explain.
Okay, I'll move that we submit exhibits O and P.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then just to sort of give an outline, I assume you're going to take some time to review those submissions, and then I have a couple witnesses I would like the board to hear from, and then I will conclude with argument and my recommendations towards sanction.
I think everyone's had sufficient time to look at the exhibits. We won't do any questioning on those right now. We'll just go ahead. Mr. Menges, would you?
Should I go ahead? Okay. So next I would like to, of course, I'm going to present evidence concerning the mitigating factors found in the local code.
Would you put the microphone a little closer?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'm going to now present some evidence regarding the mitigating factors under that local code 3214. But I want to be very clear that at the end of this, I'm going to request a recommended sanction. And this sanction isn't actually just recommended by me, but it's recommended by the law. The local law voted, approved by our community, gives you guys a specific legal recommendation on what should happen under these set of circumstances. And that is also found in Section 3214. And the second offense within 5 years, which is what this is, the recommended sanction given to you by the local code is 14 days suspension with 7 days held in abeyance for 1 year, no fine in lieu of suspension. That's what you're recommended to do by the law. The prosecutor wants you to take the jump of 14 days, 7 suspended, to closing down a local establishment, from employees losing their job, a family business going under, driving local business from Littleton over what the law recommends 14 days and 7 in abeyance for. I would ask to first call my first witness. Her name is Kathy Frangenkakis.
Good evening.
Would you raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this authority is truthful?
Yes.
Your name again is Kathy?
Yes. Kathy Frangenkakis.
You are?
I am the wife of the licensee. Is that too close?
Fine.
My husband and I understand that it is a privilege to own a liquor license. We have owned liquor licenses in the past. This isn't our first liquor license. Anytime we've had a violation, we always fix the problem. With the first violation that the prosecutor brought up, it was a karaoke evening. My husband and I stopped karaoke after that evening. With the over-serving, we made sure that one bartender was in the bar and a trainee would never talk to a customer. She would just listen to the bartender. Our employees take tips, training through Budweiser every year or every 3 years when they have to renew. We make sure that we have a policy in order that our employees follow. Our employees have signed a letter stating that they will not be drinking in our establishment, and if they do, they will be terminated immediately. My husband has owned 10 locations in 39 years. Myself, I have owned 4 locations in 20 years. In all of our locations, we have never had a violation other than in the city of Littleton. We did what we thought was best, and we fired Peter, and he no longer works at the restaurant. And he does, if he needs to come and visit us, it is okay for him to visit us. He is not allowed to drink, and he is not allowed to talk to the customers. He comes in the kitchen, and he talks to my husband and I, and he leaves. And the reason being is because my husband and I spend a lot of time at our restaurant. Him more than me, because we have a 7-year-old, but we are always there. I've sat through this proceeding the whole entire time, and it is very disappointing to me to have a police officer say the things that he said about my husband, which are totally untrue and incorrect. Due to the fear that we are going to be closed down, because that is why we're here, we have altered our business since December 31st, 2009, from our first violation. We close at 9 p.m. during the week and 10 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. Sundays, we close at 8 p.m. to avoid any type of confrontations with the police. When the officers come to our restaurant during the day, when we have to call them, or mid-shift, we never have more than one officer there. They take care of our problem, and they go on their way. My husband and I have always tried to make the closest possible relationships with the police departments, fire departments, paramedics, and city government employees in the towns that we operate in. And we've operated in Littleton, Aurora, and Denver. We have personal friends that we have developed over the years that are police officers, firemen, paramedics, and city employees, which many of them are customers at this current restaurant also. We always support the civic activities that the local governments, schools, and other civic organizations have asked us to participate in. We support this police department, the fire department, the School of the Blind, Western Welcome Week, the Taste of Littleton, the Block Party, and other events. We give our food, our beer, our time, and our money with no expectations back. Even if it costs us more than what it should really cost, we still give it because we know the return will be favorable to us. The few employees of Littleton, and it's just a few, have decided to have a personal problem towards my husband and have created a nightmare for my husband, for my family, and our employees. I was very offended by a comment that was made that the police do not want to come to my establishment simply because we want them to act like professional police officers. Yes, when an officer comes to the restaurant in the evening, we always ask for a sergeant to come too. We feel that for the safety of our patrons, my staff, and anyone in our location, it is mandatory for the police to act professional and show concern for everyone's safety. I believe that the badge is a privilege to wear, as well as the liquor license is a privilege for us to own. We have never asked for anything other than a fair and impartial treatment from any city agency. When we felt that we were not treated fairly, my husband and I went to the chief of the police. That was in January 2013. We sat in her office with her and her lieutenant. We explained to her what our concerns were. We couldn't understand what theft of services was. We couldn't understand why we were having these problems with certain police officers. Not all. She states to us, we explained our concerns for us, our family, and our business. She states to us, we are the ideal bar in Littleton. After she reviewed what we gave her statements from ex-employees that no longer work with us. We gave her our statements. We explained to her every call that we've had, how we're treated. And we haven't been treated this way the 7 years we've been there, because the first 2 years, we did not have any problems. After the first 2 years, that's when we started to have problems. After her review, she sent her lieutenant to the restaurant. The lieutenant apologized to us on her behalf for how we were being treated. We believe going to the chief just made things worse with the police department, for us, for our family, and our business. I went to the police records department and requested 5 restaurant bars, information on 5 restaurant bars in the city of Littleton. And you have the chart that I've created. That chart is from April 14th, 2008, when we opened, to December 5th, 2014. The lady at the police station gave me these papers. That's how I created it. I actually went by each restaurant and I wrote it down by hand and then kind of just picked a couple things that I'm going to explain. She also gave me a codes of what each call is. So what I did is I picked the total amount of police reports. So in the 6 years, we've had 33 police reports at our address. Now, that could be things that happened outside also, and that could happen inside the restaurant. Let me find my summary here. Well, then I picked bar checks, because the bar checks is what they called our over-serving of the client. Then I picked the disturbance in progress, which is in green. So bar check is in red, disturbance in progress is in green, and that's what the police called what happened on November 5th was. And then the purple is the total amount of different categories on this codes list of what each bar has had at their establishment. Okay. As you can see, we don't come into contact with the police a lot. Yes, we've had calls. Yes, my husband and I fixed the problem. I know every bar owner makes sure that their bars are run properly. My husband and I do also. This is our livelihood. This is how we support our 7-year-old. Peter is on his own. He's an adult. He's 28 years old. He went and got a job. That's what he has to do. That is the choice that we had to make for our son. But we have to focus on our 7-year-old. Peter will make it. He's an adult. Our son will not, because this is how we make our living. Since the situation happened in November 5th, my husband and I can't sleep. We think about this all the time. We talk about it all the time. Our main concern is losing our business. And as you can see, the prosecutor, that is what she wants. She made a statement in 2012 when we were in her office and we actually had our 4-year-old in there, that she was going to close us down. Our son, when we left, couldn't understand why she said that. And we said, baby, don't worry. No, we're not going to get closed down. Well, now we're talking about it again. Here we are again. He can't understand. Why are they trying to take our restaurant from us? I don't know I don't have an answer for him. We take responsibility for what we do wrong. We're not saying, yes, things happened. Yes, but my husband and I can fix it. We fixed the problem. We have done that in the past, and we will in the future. We haven't had the last call we had was the over-serving on June 29, 2012. And that's when we came in front of you. The police are not called to the restaurant. Our customers we make sure they don't get overserved. We make sure our customers are happy when they're in the restaurant and when they leave, so they can come back to us, so we can have a successful restaurant. When I ask, we don't go to the restaurant at night anymore since this happened also, in fear of if something's going to happen, or I don't want my son to be a part of that. I have come to a conclusion that our livelihood is threatened. We were just told that the prosecutor's recommendation is to revoke our license. I believe it's because my husband does not speak the English language in a form that the city feels is proper. He is from Greece, and he is Greek, and he has a lot of emotion in him. And it's different than American citizens, yes. He uses his hands, he talks loud, and he's a very emotional person. But because of that, we should not lose our business. I am also American Greek. My parents were born in Greece. Our religion is Greek Orthodox Christian. This is our priest here that has been supporting us. We are not Al-Qaeda. We have never asked for anything other than a fair and impartial treatment from any city agency. I would like to thank you for your time. I hope you come to the right and proper decision for our liquor license. We would like it not to be revoked. We think that our patrons are not in any danger when they come to our establishment, because if we were not running a successful restaurant, we would not be here after 7 years. We think we would be here for years and years to come because we run a good restaurant. Thank you.
Does the board have any questions for Ms. Franginkakis?
Sorry.
Would you like to go ahead? Go ahead.
Yeah, down below there, do you see a little button?
Test.
There you go.
Better.
Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Franginkakis?
I have a question. On the bar graph we're looking at, the purple bar says Littleton codes.
Yes.
What does that entail? And I ask because, for example, it has something over 20 at Platte River.
Okay, so those are these codes here. So basically, like ACCN is a non-injury accident, okay? But there is a police report written about that. And Platte River could have one of those. We have one of those. So that could be someone that got in an accident out in they used our address as the report.
Sure, so that it's activity, it's not necessarily liquor code.
No, right.
Okay.
This is just total amounts for all of us.
I understand it to be it's a contact you have with the police for one
Right.
reason or another over a Littleton code, whether it's liquor or something else.
Right, correct.
And the blue is actual police reports,
Yes,
incidents that have resulted in a police report.
correct.
Is that potentially something that's not related to your business? They just used your address because it was in front of your business?
Correct. That's just any police report that has been written for each of our addresses or establishments.
So theoretically, under Platte River, when my wife pulls out and she's driving down Santa Fe and someone pulls out from Platte River and hits her, broadsides her, that is something that could be attributed to that location.
If there was a police report, yes.
Mrs. Frangenkakis, thinking back to what you said earlier, you talked about, was it abuse from the Littleton police or treatment that you've received from the Littleton police over this period of time? We haven't heard about what that is. Can you give me some idea what has been happening to you?
Well, mainly it hasn't happened to me, but to my husband. The problem is my husband, and it happened only in the evening when I'm not there. But we went together because it's concerning both of us to the chief.
Could you tell me some of the incidents? Okay. Are you going to call Mr. Frangenkakis also?
Okay, yeah, I can just say it. Which one? Okay, yeah. Okay. Okay, so we've had a couple incidents with theft of services.
I'm sorry, with
theft of services. The prosecutor brought up the one case with the guy yelling, and Peter punched him. The customer said that Peter punched him in the face. So what happened was, with the Groupon, I believe is what she made a comment about. We had an incident about that. So one evening, we had just started these Groupons and restaurant.coms. Are you familiar with those? Okay.
Yes.
On the coupon, it states that happy hour, other promotions, and other coupons are not to be combined with this coupon. There was a group that came in with 10 people. They consumed $180 worth of food and alcohol. When they received their bill, they saw that the happy hour was not included, that they were paying full price. Well, my waitress explained to them that with this coupon, you cannot have happy hour also. The customer, which was like 6'4", I believe, a very large man, actually two men that were about that large, come to the front. They were in the back dining room, sitting in the back dining room, eating. They came to the front of the dining room, started yelling in a full restaurant that we were ripoffs. My waitress, or the person that was in charge at that night, she was pregnant. That customer pushed her when she was telling him to calm down. She called Peter over because Peter was the only male in the front. Peter comes over, tries to calm him down, tells him to stop yelling that we're ripoffs in the restaurant because everyone is listening. Jessica calls the police, and Peter and 4 people, other men, one of our cooks from the kitchen, and 3 customers, which actually one of the customers was a firefighter from Denver, helped Peter push these 2 guys out of the restaurant. and lock the door because those guys wanted to come back in. Those customers hit Peter, and I think Peter hit him back. Yes. When the police arrived, what happened? Oh, for 2 hours, they threatened my husband that they're going to close us down and they're going to get us out of the city of Littleton. And they're not going to do it through my husband. They're going to do it through Peter because they know that Peter has a bad temper. My husband and I figured they'll probably give him a DUI, they'll probably give him a ticket, they'll probably do something like that. When the police came, my husband explained to them that these people consumed the food and the drinks. Their food was finished. We want our money. We want the $180. The officer told us that they're not going to get the money for us. They refused to get the money for us. The officer that was talking to the patrons made some comments about us, that the police is at our establishment every night and we're a trouble bar. That customer went to Yelp.com and posted this on Yelp.com. Even posted that the police officer told him that we're a trouble bar and they're there every night. I had to talk to Yelp.com and have them remove it from Yelp.com because it didn't look good for us. We had another incident, not the same thing, but theft of services again. Some people consumed their food, put it in to-go boxes to leave, refused to pay for their food. We called the police again. They told them they don't have to pay, they can leave. We called the... Yes, this gentleman here, officer, came to the restaurant to explain to us what theft of services was because we just called twice for theft of services, but we were not getting our money for it. He said that the prosecutor said it was a black and white, or no, a gray area, so they really couldn't explain to us what theft of services was. Call a lawyer to explain it to us. So we never called again for theft of services. If people refused to pay for the food, we just let them go because we knew we were not going to get our money. In other cities, in Aurora and Denver, when we called the police for a theft of service, the officer asked for the credit card, we charged their bill, and they went on their way. Or they got a ticket. You want me to tell them from the beginning? Okay. Those are a couple of our incidents that we've had. I mean, we've called the police during the day. I've called the police during the day for other small things and never had a problem with a police officer. Like I said at the beginning, we had many police officers that used to come to the restaurant and eat and patronize us. And then that stopped. Okay, another incident, I think it was for the theft of services, the second one. The reason why the officers have to come 2 and 3 at a time isn't because of their safety, because my employees, my husband, we don't do anything to the police. The problem is, on that theft of services, the second one, my husband wasn't even there. He was talking to the officer on the phone. And he asked for a sergeant to be sent down to the restaurant. The officer refused and said the sergeant was too busy. I called 911 from my home and asked the dispatch lady if she could please send us a sergeant. And the sergeant came immediately. So the reason why the police have to come in twos is because we ask for a sergeant to always come when the officer comes. There was another incident with a Groupon that an officer's... Oh, go ahead. Tell me. No, just tell me. On the second incident with the Groupons, the officer and Peter recorded him on his phone, stated that we and Groupon were rip-offs prior to him having knowledge what a Groupon actually was. He didn't know what a Groupon was. So Peter does have that on his phone, recording the officer calling us that. Oh, or he doesn't have that phone anymore, sorry. But those are some of the incidents that we've had, and we still run our business even if we had those incidents. We have many friends that are police officers. We have many friends that are firemen and paramedics that come into the restaurant that support us. We have the chief, the ex-one that came into our restaurant. We have city council people that come to our restaurant. We support Western Welcome Week. We donate all our food for all the volunteers on Western Welcome Week. We do a lot for the city. We don't want people to know that because of the kind of people that we are. We are very caring people. We care about the city that we're in. We want to make sure that we are treated the same way. And tonight and the last few nights that we've been here, the defense case is going to go to court for its own trial. We are here for us and for our business and our livelihood. And we don't believe that we should be revoked because many other bars, yes, they have bouncers and they have managers and they have people that control things. And their licenses do not get taken away. We don't believe that our license should be taken away either.
I'd like to make a comment. I've sat on this board for about 7 years now. Well, next time I'll be term limit. I'll be gone. But the one thing that I do know from all that experience, that I can assure you that you are getting a fair hearing. This is not going to be anything that if we do decide to revoke that license, that we've just decided we don't like you and we want you gone. It has been a rare thing when we have revoked a license and the board has felt it had good cause. We have made decisions in the 7 years that have not pleased the police department all that much or a prosecutor. So I assure you, you are getting a fair hearing here with this authority. We have honestly heard many troubling things, and we're going to go through and listen to everything, make a decision, but I do have a couple questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You say that your life, I'd like to mention this too. I understand from the standpoint of being a small business owner that has raised 2 daughters also on premises and have had challenges with licensing, etc. And there's people on this board from all different walks of life that do understand circumstances. But I want to know, I wasn't quite sure, you said your life has been made a nightmare. Now, I understand with this over you not being able to sleep at night and how it just, but other than that you find yourself in this situation, is there anything that is making or people that are continuing to make your life a nightmare? And if so, would you explain?
Since this, or before or after this incident?
In this time period. You can go back several months before this, but it sounded like because of this instance, people were making your life a living nightmare, and I was wondering, other than you've given us a couple examples that would disturb a business owner, is there anything else?
No.
Okay, I understand.
Just what I said.
I have also a question, because we had these two exhibits admitted, M and N, where was the witness of pretty much the kind of conduct that we heard with this particular instance. You went to Chief Coogan's office, spoke with her, the lieutenant was there.
Yes.
And you said she sent the lieutenant to apologize.
Correct.
Apologize for what?
For the way we were being treated. We explained to her how we were being treated. We gave her letters from employees. They no longer work with us, but at that time, of how they were being treated by the police department. I should have said that. So how we were being treated by the police and how our employees were being treated by the police. That's why we went there.
And my last question is, you say you don't go to work at night.
Correct.
You have the 7-year-old now. It seems to me that the impetus for a whole lot of this, unfortunately, is your son. And if he's no longer there, why would you anticipate any problem arising that the police would have to come there any more than the afternoon? So I don't quite understand why you have this hesitation for working at night.
Because the police don't like my husband either.
How is that different than working during the afternoon? Police would, if you are correct, would still not like him.
Right, but like I said, the officers during the day, when we're there, we never have a problem with them. It's only a few officers that we have a problem with. It's not everyone.
All right.
It's only a few.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
How long did Peter work for you?
Since June 2008 until November 5th, 2014.
And what capacity did he work?
He worked about 3 to 4 days a week.
And was he the bar manager this whole time?
No, not the whole time.
Okay. When did he become the bar manager?
I don't remember. That would be a question for my husband. See, because there is some misunderstanding or not understanding correct or how we run our restaurant. Peter works from 5 to 8. Peter does not close our restaurant, because if Peter wanted to close the restaurant, he would close the restaurant at 8 o'clock. We have other employees that work the bar that close the restaurant, 9, 10, and in the summer we stay open till 11. Our employees, yes, we have Katie, she's in charge. They're not really general managers and managers. They're not in that scale. They're just people. He's the owner. I'm in charge when I'm there. These people are in charge when neither one of us is there. We put Katie, and we have 3 others, Elgin, Lisa, and Kristen, that close the bar for us, that are in charge when we leave to close the restaurant. but they're not really general managers or bar managers. They're just people we put in charge. And then we call them that. We call, you're in charge, you're the general manager. Everyone listens to you. Peter, you're the bar manager. You take care of the bar. Elgin's a general manager. She's in charge of everyone in the restaurant. And then we have a kitchen manager that's in charge of the kitchen. But, I mean, he's the owner. He's in charge of everyone, including me and everyone else. I say I'm the owner too, but I know he's the owner. Peter might say he's the owner. Well, yeah, his dad is the owner. He's not the owner. My 7-year-old son says he's the owner. He tells, customers ask him, who are you? You're working really hard. I'm the owner. It's a family restaurant. That's what we are. Then a brewery. Our brewery doesn't even come first. Our restaurant comes first. We love families. You know, before we bought this restaurant, families were not allowed in the restaurant with the previous owner. He didn't want families in the restaurant because they didn't make him enough money in the bar. We changed this restaurant in 7 years, and the most people that you will see in our restaurant are families. We support the Littleton Hockey Association. Our son plays for the Littleton Hockey Association. We picked the Littleton Hockey Association because our restaurant is in Littleton. We live across the street from Arapahoe Hockey Association. They bring their hockey teams to our restaurant at night and have a good time. We have them there during the day, we have them at lunch, we have them at night. They come all different times. We love families. We love everyone that can drink also. I mean, don't take me wrong, anybody's welcomed, but we have changed it from a brewery. Yes, we are a brewery. We make our unique beer that we have, but we're a family restaurant. People come in, they know who my husband and I are. They know who Peter was. They know who our son Harry is. That's the kind of restaurant we own. If I see you at the store or I see you at Costco or something, people come up to me all the time. Don't you own the old mill? Yes. Oh, are you a customer? Yes. I mean, we have so many people from the banks to everything involved in the city of Littleton that comes to our restaurant. Thanks. Anything else?
You said that you have your employees sign an agreement that say, well, they'll not drink or else they'll get fired. When did you start that policy?
After this incident.
Okay, so that's new.
Yes. Our employees before this incident were allowed a shift drink each after their shift.
And we heard testimony that Peter often drank at work. Were you aware of that?
Our employees were allowed one shift drink after they got off of work, yes.
And that's all he drank was one after his shift?
I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Okay.
But that's what he was told to do. And like any other employee, Peter or whoever else it may be, we were not there, so I couldn't tell you. If we found out, though, from someone that was in charge, then we would take care of the problem. The alcohol would stop.
So since this incident, Peter has been fired.
Correct.
And now the employees sign an agreement that they won't drink.
Correct.
Have you taken any other actions?
None of them are renewals on tips yet, but when they come up for renewals, they have to take their tips. They knew that before, but they know to call the police if there was a problem in the restaurant. And my husband stays there much longer now.
How's your video surveillance system? Is it back in working shape?
No, not yet. We have some electrical problems with it.
During Mr. Menges' close, during the hearing, he he made the statement that none of the criminal proceedings had anything to do with the licensee. What I have a hard time squaring is the notion that, whether he's just an employee, which there's been no factual, statement against, or, a manager and what level manager, or whether or not he's an owner, it's hard for me to understand how a licensee would claim that the conduct of their employee, manager or not, has nothing to do with them. In your opinion, how does, I guess my question is, for the authority, we're here to look at conduct in establishments, and I was surprised to hear the claim that the kind of behavior that went on, had nothing to do with the licensee. Do you feel a responsibility for those kind of things going on in your bar and by your employees?
We take responsibility of all our employees. Doesn't matter if it was Peter or if it was someone else. We take the responsibility. He's the owner, I'm his wife. Basically, we're the owners. We understand that our liquor license, our employees reflect our liquor license. We understand that. So their misbehavior reflects us. Yes, we understand that. That's why we fired him that night. That's why in any incident that we have, we fix the problem. So we won't have it again. I can't foresee in the future what an employee will do or what kind of employee they are. I read their application, I hire them. I hope they do a good job for us, but you don't know what kind of person they are. You don't know what they are capable of doing. That's in any business. When you hire employees, you always have a risk of something happening to you as a business owner. But we just hope that you can oversee that as a business, that, yes, I know he was...
Well, okay, hold on just a minute. I would, if you would like,
No.
Well, if you want to come up and testify, I think you should. So, I'd like to hear her testimony, and if you're obviously welcome to at any point. So, I'd like to hear her answer.
Yeah.
And you're, if you would rather he answer it later, that's your choice as well.
No, that's all I had to say.
Okay.
Did you want to say something?
No, I can answer your question if you like.
No.
I think, why don't we continue with Mrs. Frangiskakis, and then if there are any other questions.
Hold on.
I have one more question.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you to put words in your husband's mouth.
Okay.
Mr. Frangiskakis, when I asked him why Peter was fired, said two reasons. One, because he knew you were going to be here dealing with us.
Correct.
But two, that he feared for Peter's life.
Yes.
Could you expand on what possible reason there was to have that fear?
Yes. The reason why he said that is we go back to what I said earlier. Some of the officers sat my husband down for 2 hours in one of the calls that we had. Told my husband that they're going to close us down and get us out of the city of Littleton. They told him that they're not going to do it through him, that they are going to do it through Peter because they know Peter has a bad temper. And that's why. So we don't believe that Peter did anything wrong. Yes, he did do things wrong. He acted improper. He did those things wrong. But we believe that it's better for him to stay away from the restaurant for his safety. Because you never know what could happen next time.
Are there any other questions? Ms. Frangiskakis?
I don't have any.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd next ask the authority to hear from Eric Jones.
evening.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this authority is truthful?
I do.
State your name, please.
Eric Jones. I hope I'm not expected to fill as much time as Kathy did. I've got a pretty brief statement here. Good evening, and thanks for the opportunity to offer a statement on this matter. I'd also like to thank the authority for your time and attention to this case over the last several weeks. I myself have been here for a good majority of it. I'd also like to thank you in general for your service to the community of Littleton. My name is Eric Jones. My paid profession is a construction management. I've recently completed a $40 million mixed-use building in Lodo, and I'm now starting a 3-year, $160 million in Denver Union Station. And from building downtown, I can tell you that my experiences at the old mill are nothing like what Denver PD deals with down there, so we should all be grateful for that, first of all. In addition, I'm a volunteer firefighter with Foothills Fire Protection. I've been certified in the state of Colorado for hazmat, structure fires, wildland fire, as well as an emergency medical responder. I've had that certification for over 3 years. I'm also a volunteer youth hockey coach at Littleton Hockey Association and have been for the last 4 years. I know a little bit about giving oneself to the community. I have a brother who's a sheriff's deputy in the state of Nevada and has been for 15 years. I have a sister who's a lawyer in a local DA's office in California. I also have several friends that are lawyers and law enforcement officers throughout the West, so I know that they know an awful lot about community service, and I also understand and know the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis. While we're all in different lines of work, and I know you folks are as well, we all have one thing in common. We're human beings. And unfortunately, human beings have the capacity to make mistakes. I know I've made a couple in my 44 years. I don't intend to speak specifically of the events that occurred back in November of last year at the old mill, as I was not there in person myself. I do know Peter, though, from my visits. However, I can speak to the character of the Frangiskakis family, as I have known them for about 3 years. I can also speak to their ability to offer a fun, safe family restaurant experience. As my family of 4, a wife, a 9-year-old son, and a 7-year-old daughter, have and will continue to frequent the Old Mill restaurant. Their younger son, Harry, has been on the same hockey team that I coach with my 7-year-old daughter for a good majority of these 3 years. In the 3 years that I've known the Frangiskakis family, I've found them to be caring, thoughtful, and quite generous, both personally as well as through their business at the Old Mill. They have hosted several formal and informal team gatherings at the restaurant at considerable discounts to those of us that visit, and have also made donations to other charitable efforts that my family is involved in outside of Littleton. Our family, as well as several other Littleton hockey families, consider the Old Mill Brewery and Restaurant to be a family establishment, and to this day do not hesitate to visit their place of business, not just to support the Frangiskakis family, but also to support small, locally owned businesses rather than all of the big national corporate chains. You might not be able to guess from your brief interactions with Bill, but he can get a little excited during a close game at the hockey rink. But as a coach and a parent, I've found this enthusiasm from a caring and involved parent to be a relief compared to the all too common busy parent that drops their child off at a sporting event all for the coach to be the babysitter while they run off and do their errands. It's much better to have families involved. Behind every good man, there is a better woman. And in this case, it's Kathy. Simply put, she's a saint. Pardon the expression. I previously mentioned mistakes. And while this authority has already determined that due to the events of that night that the Old Mill violated terms of their liquor license, I would really hate to see the events of one individual on one evening dictate the outcome of the Frangiskakis family ability to operate a successful family business going forward. Until tonight, I'm aware of no other discussion throughout this hearing about previous or reoccurring issues at the Old Mill and see this quite simply as an isolated event. While trying to decide what suspension, if any, should come from previous determination, please consider whether or not those events from one evening from a now terminated employee should dictate their ability to provide for their family going forward, as well as their ability of all of their employees to provide for their families. These are good people, operate a good family restaurant in a registered historical building in downtown Littleton. Please allow them to continue to serve this great city, and please let the courts determine the outcome of the events from that night for the individuals that were involved in those criminal cases outside of this. I have one other thing I'd like to add just based on my visits here, and that is that I volunteer to respond in emergency situations. I don't carry a weapon. I don't have that defense, but I can tell you when that tone drops, you never ever question whether you will or won't respond. You go. And if Littleton Police has concerns about that, I'm going to have concerns that when I drive or walk out in this parking lot, has somebody marked my vehicle? Does somebody know the license? I don't ever think that equation should mix in, ever. They wear that badge. They took an oath. I'm not judging on either side. I'm just saying that as an emergency responder, you go because you were there to help and serve the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions? No, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'd ask the authority to hear from Thomas Huggins.
Good evening.
Good evening. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this authority is truthful?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. State your name, please.
My name is Thomas Huggins, and I'm a local accountant here in Littleton. I've known Bill, Kathy, and Peter for 15 years, and I was there for the birth of their son, Harry. So I've been well acquainted with the family. I have helped them on occasions and have become acquainted with their extended families in the area. I feel that they go out of their way to accommodate everyone they meet. Being an accountant, you have a problem with a lot of different costs and things like that are involved, but they go out of their way and they will do things that cost them money to their detriment, which is the kind of people I want to be around. The prior restaurants they have owned have had liquor licenses and have never been cited for a violation of the law. They go out of their way to support local schools and activities like senior baseball, junior hockey leagues. They have supported local police activities and functions like picnics in the park, where they provided all the food and beverages for these events, which are for police families as well as other people that the police actually invite to the event. I've even been involved with Cops Against Cancer that they set up, a silent auction, and got all of the donations for it, got the space to do it in, and promoted that for the police officers that have cancer. I've even helped them with the activities like Taste of Littleton, which they spent several $100s of their own money to promote the city of Littleton. I understand what you said about fair and impartial stuff here. I find the comments made by a certain police officer ridiculous and shocking in his testimony. My only son is a 14-year veteran with another police department in another jurisdiction. And I could never see my son saying something like that he doesn't want to go on a call because of the owner. That's ridiculous. That's not the kind of police officer I want to have around me. I also have a police background. Before I went to college, I was U.S. Marshal. To me, the reason that individuals become a police officer is to protect and help serve the public, to stop things like happened that night. My son has several citations for stuff like that from his police department. I can't see him letting something get out of hand that was that bad. In short, I will support and defend anyone who becomes a police officer willing to serve and protect the public. Again, after listening to the 2 days of hearing, I find that I have not been impressed by a fair and impartial hearing here. I understand your comments on that earlier, but I guess as we go, we will find out whether it's fair and impartial. That's the only thing I can say. The fact that the comments and testimony here do not concern the proposed violation, but a criminal case that is yet to be tried, bothers me. And I guess thank you for letting me speak, and I request that you do not suspend the Old Mills license.
Are there any questions? No, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'd ask the authority to hear from Pete Barrett.
Hello.
Raise your right hand, please. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this authority is truthful?
I do.
Thank you. State your name, please.
Peter Barrett. I have to excuse the way I talk today. I had some dental surgery today, so a little bit of pain with no medication today. So I knew I was going to be here tonight. I wanted to make it a point to be here tonight. Thank you for listening to me and the testimony over the last few weeks. I think you have some very important decisions to make for the citizens of Littleton. And I, for one, think they're very important. I would like to probably be a little more narrow-minded than some of the people that have been up here, but that's me, okay, a little more narrow-minded. I would like to say to the board that the actions of my friend Bill on the night the police were called to the old mill, in my humble opinion as an ordinary citizen, did not rise to the level of a liquor violation. That is not what you found, and I understand that. But as Forrest Gump might say, I might not be a smart man, but I know a stretch when I see one or I hear one. I think the officers that testified here stretched it just a little bit. They wanted my friend Bill to be put in the worst light possible, and they did a pretty good job of that. There was a problem with the police department of Littleton, and my friend Bill and I would submit quite courageously went down to talk to the chief about it. I don't know of a better way to take care of a problem that you have with the rank and file officers that are below the chief. They got a positive reaction from the chief, but the outcome was horrible. If there was a better way to take care of a problem, it should have been suggested to my friend Bill. And I am confident he would have been willing to correct the problems. Sometimes, knowing several officers, when someone goes above their head, they don't appreciate it very much. And things started to spiral downhill. I've known Bill for, I think it's going on 11 years now, somewhere around there. I've known him owning restaurants in Aurora and Denver. And my son had his first job with Bill. And I greatly appreciated that. But in these restaurants that I've known Bill to be in, it has always been a friendly and a friendship with the local police department. Never any problems. Some people don't get along with Bill because, he's talks a lot. I guess that's what I would say. And he comes at you at a lot of angles. Okay? So if he doesn't get the rise out of you he wants in one angle, he'll come at you at another angle. Okay? Some people don't appreciate that. I happen to appreciate it and love him very much. If Bill is allowed, Bill and Kathy are allowed to keep making a living in the city of Littleton, will he manage his restaurant better? You bet he will. As Kathy stated several times, they fix it. And they fix it with angles. Okay, he'll come at it at whatever angle he needs to do to fix it. Okay. I would submit to the board, again as an ordinary citizen and a friend of Bill, what you have witnessed as far as Bill being up here is the frustration of not having a friendly or friendship relationships with these few officers that he has come at several angles to try to establish those friendships. I would also submit that he would pose no danger to the citizens of Littleton or to the police department of Littleton. Thank you.
Are there any questions? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'd ask the authority to next hear from Father Chris.
Did you want to ask a question?
No.
Oh, okay.
No? Okay.
I hate to ask you to swear with your collar on. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this authority is truthful?
Most certainly do.
Thank you.
Sir.
State your name, please.
I'm Reverend Chris Margaritis. I'm the pastor at the Assumption Greek Orthodox Christian Cathedral in Denver. I have been for about 2.5 years. I've been a priest for 32 years. And my last assignment, I was in Omaha. I was a police chaplain. My assistant priest was three-time former chief of police of Laramie, Wyoming. And I'd like to start off by saying I have respect for your decision and the responsibility that you carry, especially for the police. I always stand behind the police and respect what they do. And I also have respect for this family. I'm not sure I can comment on, but I'd like to comment on 3 things, if I may. The first would be the restaurant itself, the Old Mill Brewery and Restaurant. The second would be just some things I'm not a witness to what happened, so I don't know what I can say, but from what I heard here, I have some opinions. And the third would be on the family, if I may, with your permission. I've been to the restaurant several times. I've taken my sons there. My sons are 28 and 30 years old now. It's a unique restaurant. He gave me a tour, showed me the microbrewery. I'm impressed. It had a real family atmosphere of fun, and my sons loved it. Nothing close to any incidents there. I've gone back and felt safe there, and I felt it's a wonderful place. I just feel I need to say that. I would frequent it. I don't even drink. Someday I'll taste the beer, maybe. Second is the testimony of the witness. I grew up in the restaurants, working for my father. I got streamed at. I think my father fired me 1,000 times in front of all the customers. I know what it's like to be humiliated that way, but sometimes that's just how it is. I don't know any of that to be criminal. At least not in America. But I was concerned with the witness, the customer, on 3 counts. I've never seen anything like that. If there's screaming going on between, after hours, between the manager and the employee, I wouldn't get involved in that. It's the last thing I would do. And if I did, and if I thought it was extreme, and I probably was, I would issue a complaint like the other complaints that were listed here, or go outside and say, I'm going to go out and call 911 and go out and do it. 2 bigger guys taking on a younger guy, a smaller guy, and a fight breaking out. I have no idea from what I heard who threw the first punch. But the second part was he threw a punch hard enough to break his own arm. This guy was serious. And the part that I really have concern with is when he called 911, he put the police in harm's way. Because he said, I carry a gun, but I didn't have it that night. But he informed the dispatcher that there was a gun. He didn't explain who. So the police came in, had ascertained. That puts everybody in a dangerous position. I don't know, but that sounds like some sort of weird setup to me, or someone looking for trouble. I don't get that. But I seem like a nice guy, but I have concerns about that. Meanwhile, the owner fired the manager and his son. I certainly know what that's like. I see that as responsible. I don't see how this isolated incident, I agree with the previous witness, has anything to do with the liquor license, since whoever violated any of this was fired. That's my opinion. I wasn't there. But from what I heard here, I think I would never put the police in harm's way and not be very clear to the dispatcher about who's got a weapon and then break my arm on someone's head because someone's arguing. There's a lot of other ways to deal with those kinds of things. I find a lot of that unfortunate and a lot of maybe blame to go around. I wish maybe the officer in question would have sat down and maybe let him smoke the cigarette because, watery eyes and, whether he was intoxicated or beat up, I'm still not even clear on that. I wasn't there. Maybe if you let him smoke a cigarette and calm down, maybe things would have been a little better. Police are peace officers. I would have preferred that. But would never hold them at fault, especially when he was informed someone had a weapon and not knowing who that was. That is not right. That is not fair. Now, that's all I have to say on that. Regarding the family, I've only known them for 2.5 years. I have a lot in common with Bill. We're Greek, and Greeks, sometimes we're brutally honest. I know him to be an honest man. Scripture says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. He is most certainly like that. And you have proof. He knows, because I already asked him. So when he gave his testimony, and I'm not going to repeat it, you know what he said. And he said it pretty hard. He knew that wasn't going to work in his favor. But from his viewpoint, and people don't always agree, there's always two sides. I deal with that every day. But from his viewpoint, he didn't say it was in his favor or try to be clever or political or diplomatic. He said what he thought was the truth from his viewpoint. Why would he put himself out on a limb like that in front of you except to tell the truth? And that's the person I know. That's how honest he is. That's proof to you that he would stand up and make, now the stories, I don't know the stories behind those things, but I know they believe them. I know them to be religious people. I know them to be family-oriented. And I know them to be people of their word. I also think they run a good business. And I would ask that you consider, this is an isolated incident. I saw the case of complaints. Hey, I get complaints every day. And that's just how life is. But for the most part, you have a responsibility also to the businesses and to Littleton to say a good business that takes care of its customers, helps the city of Littleton, pays taxes, is to your benefit, and it's a statement to future businesses. If you want to reprimand, or if you want to say, look, you need to make some changes, and this is what we expect for the privilege of your liquor license, I know that whatever he says, he will do. That's the kind of guy I know. And if he doesn't, then I think you revoke it. But at the same time, this is a microbrewery. You take away his liquor license, and you've just crushed them, and you've made a statement to businesses about, hey, some guy can come in, throw punches to degrees, and then call the cops and tell them there's a gun and not say where it's coming from, and cost you your business. Is that a statement that I think helps Littleton or Colorado in general? I don't think so. But my viewpoint really comes down to this. I know them to be honest people. I know their opinions don't agree with some of the other people that I consider honest and good working for the city of Littleton, but that's human nature. But I know them and I vouch for them as honest people. I've had discussions with them and they've been brutally honest. That's how we do things. You heard it yourself. I kind of like that kind of honesty in a world where that's lacking, but I stand behind, if he says he'll do whatever you say to do, I think he'll do it. I wouldn't stand up here and say otherwise. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Are there any questions? Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
So we've heard a lot about this whole criminal case with Peter, and just to be clear, Peter's charged with assaulting these patrons. He's not charged with assaulting any officers. And I can't believe this, but the patrons are not charged with assaulting Peter. I have nothing to do with that case. He's presumed innocent. He's going to trial. So I'd like to move on past that. I don't want to relitigate anything we've talked about. I want to talk about some mitigating factors under 3.2.14. The big one is corrective actions taken since this incident. All know Mr. Benjamin fired his own son. He doesn't let him hang out there. He doesn't let him drink there. When they say that Peter's allowed to come to the establishment, if you haven't been there, there's a little door with a little office on the other side. And he comes to us. He doesn't even go in the restaurant itself. And this is because his family's there all the time. But he's not allowed to patronize the establishment, drink there. He got fired. He lost his job. His girlfriend still works there. He can't even talk to her when she's at work. So I think that's a pretty drastic step that they took. And then also, this is they have a liquor license that they can stay open until whatever, it's 2 in the morning, right? It's also a brewery. Since this, or the sort of first incident, they closed. This is a restaurant now. It's not even a bar anymore. This is a family restaurant. They close like 9 o'clock. They close the kitchen. People finish their drinks. It's not a bar scene. It's not a bar crowd. Just to avoid any kind of drunkenness, any kind of fighting, all that stuff. And bars make their licenses, make their money between 9 and 2. That's what bars make their money. There's not a single bar or restaurant that doesn't make a lot more money off alcohol than food. So these people took a substantial cut in their income and their livelihood. So I think that's
The microphone.
Oh, microphone? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. Am I on TV? So I think, firing your son, an employee, is one, but closing at 9 o'clock and giving up a major percentage of your revenue is another one. And then since then, they don't even give a shift drink anymore to their employees. I don't know of any restaurant or bar that doesn't give at least one shift drink to their employees. Not only do they not give the shift drink to their employees can't drink there, paid or not paid. In fact, we have signed contracts with their employees saying that they cannot drink there. If they have one sip of anything, they're fired. Done deal. That's a corrective action. It's a significant corrective action. In regards to likelihood of reoccurrence, this is an isolated incident. This isn't something that just kind of happens or you kind of do something that happens. This is a unique situation. So I don't think this is going to stop this happening to some other place or him under general or specific deterrence. In regards to hardship on the licensee for a sanction imposed, if you close this restaurant, not only are you closing a restaurant, putting out a family business, probably driving people out of Littleton, certainly taking people that aren't coming to Littleton, employees losing jobs in the city of Littleton, but you're also, the inventory is always an issue when you close an establishment and liquidation, but we have, I don't know, how much beer do you have there? We have, all this beer is gone. That's, hundreds of dollars of inventory in beer alone that would just be sitting there. All those huge vats you see are full of beer. So if you close the liquor license, that's right there. That's all gone. They can't sell that liquor. No, that beer. So you don't just have, the basic shelf stuff in most situations or food. You have beer and a lot of it. Length of time the license has been held by this licensee. The current license has been since December 2010, but they've been in business since since April of 8. Yeah, so I was going to say. They've actually had this business and a prior license since April of 08, and you've heard everything that's ever happened there, so they get a fraction of the call that every other bar and restaurant gets in the neighborhood, a fraction of problems. It's like not even a bar anymore, it's a restaurant and a family restaurant. So getting from that to where the prosecutor wants to go in this case for reasons shocking and unbelievable to me, she wants this establishment to lose their license. Oh, let me back up. If we start taking away licensees' liquor license every time there's a fight in a bar or nightclub, you're not going to have any more bars or nightclubs. You're certainly not going to have them where you take their license. I don't know of too many bars or nightclubs that have never had any sort of fight. Doesn't matter if it's an employee, a bouncer. This is a common occurrence. If you take the liquor license for a fight that happened, the next restaurant, they're not going to come here. They're not going to do business for this in the town of Littleton, city of Littleton. The other places in the city of Littleton, they're going to go somewhere else. If you go down to Denver, this is a spitting on the sidewalk ticket, a fight in a bar. But again, this isn't even a bar. They close at 9 o'clock. I've been there. It's a family establishment. There's kids running around. It's seated at tables. It's not a bar. It's a family restaurant. People come to Littleton to go to this family restaurant because it's a unique, historic establishment. They come to spend time with Bill and Kathy Franch and Caucus. People come to Littleton. They won't come to Littleton anymore. They patronize Littleton because of they come to the old mill and go out. Those people aren't coming anymore. You close this establishment, again, employees will lose their jobs, people out of their jobs. You're going to drive business from Littleton. That's undisputable. And what the prosecutor's asking for and what the law recommends are night and day. Absolutely night and day. Like, I can't even believe I'm hearing that the prosecutor's asking to close an establishment for a violation. Because the second offense within 5 years, again, 14-day suspension with 7 days held in abeyance for 1 year. That's what the law recommends you impose. Going from that to putting a family out of business that provides for their family, lose business to the community, lose respect for the community, is just, that's just so far apart. I can't even fathom that. You're talking about these people losing hundreds of thousands of dollars and not making any more money. They have kids. I think that the citizens have spoken. A lot of those people that I submitted those letters, they've actually been a lot of the people that have been here. A lot of them had other family obligations. We all play hockey. So a lot of them wanted to be here and they couldn't. I apologize I didn't get those earlier, but I just kind of got them. There's a lot of letters, and those letters don't just talk about general, oh, they're good people. There's specific instances of conduct, of charitable giving, of being members of the community, and they speak for themselves. And then you have 4 people here that have spent hours and hours sitting here just because of their concern, and they've said, just like the rest of them said, that these are good, hardworking family people. They give to the community both through their work, their charitable givings, and so forth. They give money to the community. They even support the police force. So I'd ask not to turn this into some sort of political thing between this bar owner and the police. And I'd ask to look past that, and do essentially what you're recommended to do by the law: 14 days, 7 days suspension. Thank you for your time.
14 does not tell you that you must suspend for 14-7 on a second offense. That's a misstatement of the law.
I said recommend. That's what it does recommend.
What the law says.
But you are misstating the law, and I'd ask the ruling from the city attorney that you're misstating the law.
I will weigh in on this. 3214 talks about aggravating and mitigating factors. What Mr. Menges is quoting from is actually your guidelines for recommended sentences, and they specifically say that nothing herein is binding on the authority. These guidelines are intended to be informational only and a guide for the members of the authority. They do not have the effect of law on you. So
the authority is capable of using our judgment to determine what the appropriate penalty is, and we will.
That is correct. And I would just point out that this is a penalty guideline for the prosecutor to attempt to achieve some sort of consistency, but he's making reference to a second offense. We're not talking about a second offense. We're talking about a third offense in 5 years. But this is not binding the authority. The second thing I would like to comment on, you've heard a lot of wild allegations, and I would submit to you that a lot of what has been said about Littleton Police Department is simply that, wild accusations. It's blame shifting. We're here for this. The cases that I brought to you that talks about things that did not happen on this night are to show a pattern of conduct that has occurred at this establishment. There are allegations of abuse by Littleton PD. There's allegations of misconduct. But yet, you cannot dispute Peter's behavior. You cannot dispute Katie Cashman or Vasilios' behavior that night. And I submit that in the police reports that I showed from the earlier incidents, you can't dispute that. We have a huge conspiracy against the old mill that is presented to you tonight. But yet, in the case that is made reference to tonight regarding the theft of services, you have the case in front of you. It's Exhibit B, I believe. They did a full investigation. I myself reviewed that case. It wasn't theft of services. There was no intent to steal. It was a civil dispute over a Groupon. They could not decide how to handle that. It was a civil issue. It's not a criminal issue. And then when you look at the behavior that night and all the punching and the yelling and the screaming, the police officers decided that they couldn't make a decision on what happened. That there were witnesses on this side, witnesses on that side, and they didn't charge anybody. Well, if there was a conspiracy, I would submit to you that Peter would have been charged that night. And if I had reviewed that case, I probably would have recommended that all parties be charged with fighting in a public place. But there's not a conspiracy. Every time police go out there, it's reviewed by the chain of command. We have several officers that they claim are attacking them, but yet it's reviewed by sergeants and commanders, one of which is here, one of which says some of these things that they've made reference to tonight simply did not happen. We have accusations against the prosecutor that I made statements that I'm going to close them down. Well, the good thing is I brought my case file where I document everything. Never made a statement I was going to close them down. I went by the plea bargain guidelines that the authority has on a second offense in 5 years, and when I met with them on 11/1/2012, I said, this is the second offense within 5 years, I am recommending 14 days with 7 held in abeyance. There were no threats to close them down. This isn't personal. This is me doing my job, just like Littleton PD is doing their job. It's on record when we came in front of the authority on December 12, 2012. You can pull the record. I didn't say I wanted them closed down. I wanted 14/7. That's what I asked for. It's on record. They submit this graph to you. This graph is somewhat worthless. We have high volume bars, Tavern and Platte River. There's no documentation of the type of calls, but the authority has been here and listened to the type of calls that we get out. Platte River has not been before this authority since August of 2004. And they were before this authority on that day on a probable cause hearing, and the authority determined probable cause wasn't founded. We haven't seen Platte River since then. They may have a high volume calls, but they do a lot of business. And there's no evidence here as to what kind of calls. There's accidents, as the authority member questioned. If there's an accident, police get called out. Old Town Tavern. They haven't seen the authority since 2008. The Tavern, you guys are aware of the Tavern's history. You guys are aware of the Tavern's cases. I would submit to you that the majority of the cases at the Tavern were not sustainable. I myself dealt with all of them. They were minor. They were fights. They were a couple people getting too intoxicated. They were cases that I couldn't even prove. They were nothing like beating up an officer. Ned Kelly's, they've been around for 4 years. You saw them once in 2013 in 4 years. Old Mill. So they say they had 33 calls, but you've seen them 3 times in 4 years. So you can compare, and you can see that this information is just simply of no value. Lots of statements were made regarding the damage that will be done to the old mill and the family and the business. This case is nothing like the cases that you've seen before you. Peter attacked an officer. In addition to everything else, we have serving We have disorderly conduct. This is not a fighting case. This is not over-serving. This is the owner, the general manager, the bar manager, whatever you want to call him, attacking a police officer. It goes well and beyond whatever could be considered appropriate. He was charged with assault against a police officer in municipal court. And that's why we're here. We're here for the crime that occurred. That 3211 talks about. I'd ask you to revoke.
No more witnesses from either side? No more comments?
No, sir.
I'd like to remind the authority members that we have already found a violation, in the last session of this hearing. So that's not the issue. The only issue we are going to deal with right now is the penalty for the violation that we have already found.
Mr. Chairman, can you speak into the microphone, please? Thank you.
My apologies. Anyway, discussion from the authority members.
Go first. You know, what we've heard about the owners there, very caring, giving people, nice, have friends. I wouldn't own a restaurant business for all the tea in China. One of my dear friends owned the premier Greek restaurant for a number of years here in Denver. His gentleman's name, he's passed now, Convertus. I actually knew a Spartan. But that does not equate with a skill set in managing a restaurant or a manufacturing business or whatever. And even within that skill set, I have seen in business time and time again where management has a skill set in being able to manage a number of facilities with the exception of one. What we have seen here is a pattern. Back in 2011, Peter was yelling, threatening lives. And it's been a continuing pattern. He apparently, from all the testimony, nothing really to the contrary, has an anger management problem. He also, from the testimony with the DUIs and the testimony we heard, he has a problem with alcohol abuse. That's all extremely unfortunate. But the owners have known about the anger. They've known about the alcohol abuse. They have known about previous occasions. The other manager that night couldn't tell that Peter was intoxicated. But every single number of policemen, every single one trained, said he was intoxicated. The paramedics, who the family has no quarrel with, their professional judgment is he was intoxicated. We heard a testimony about attacking a police officer. If you are intoxicated, you are out of control. And if you have a temper, is it surprising that this occurs? But we heard testimony from the other manager that was there that these police officers, and I think I forget it, up to 5, had Peter down in a fetal position and were beating and kicking him. But there's absolutely no injuries that would correspond to such an event. But a great amount of testimony that the attack and the pursuing events occurred. We also, as an authority, heard an open phone conversation to 911. We aren't having to depend on testimony of police or Peter or the other 2 individuals, the 2 Mr. Whites. We were able to listen to actually what transpired on the open phone to 911. Peter's gone. Will that stop? Will that stop it? They're still allowing him into the kitchen. If he has a problem with alcohol abuse and decides to come in rip-roaring drunk to the kitchen and doesn't like what he sees going on, is he going to engage an employee? I don't know. I find this situation not a single incident, but a pattern. I find the situation horribly, horribly heart-rending. It's a very sad, sad thing. I'd like to hear what other authority members before, as I go over in both my mind and heart what my decision will be, so I'd like to hear from other authority members.
You know, I think this is a very complicated matter, and maybe it's been made more complicated through some different factors. You know, I went home after our last meeting, and I wrote what my thoughts were at that time, and I think it might be helpful to read most of it, you know, taking into account some of the new information we've heard about aggravating and mitigating factors tonight. But, you know, I think what we need to consider is perceptions, root causes, and escalations. I would not argue against the finding of the Old Mill incident involving Robert White and his son Joshua. White ultimately constituted a violation of the liquor code. I find Robert's testimony to be most credible, and his concern for the safety of another individual is commendable. Had Peter successfully asked the patrons to leave verbally without pushing them out the door, I truly believe we would not be here today. I think we have all had lapses of tact and professionalism, but considering the physical contact that was initiated by Peter upon Joshua White, the situation escalated to a level of a disturbance. It's clear to me that more was going on between Joshua and Peter non-verbally prior to the escalation than we heard about in testimony. But what is clear is that Peter escalated the situation on the way out the door, and the patrons took exception to that. Between alarming his patrons with loud and profane admonishment of his employees to the physical ejection of the patrons, that is where I find the violation of the liquor code. Everything else about this matter, I would argue, borders on irrelevant. There's a concern that Katie Cashman, the acting manager, did not call the police. By the time there was actual knowledge of a need to call the police, Peter had already had knowledge that they were on the phone and had been contacted. In fact, they arrived very shortly thereafter. A fair portion of the remaining situation didn't necessarily arise from the actions of the employee, Peter. The police response to the disturbance was amplified by a report of a gun being used in the altercation. The first fact here is that no gun was used. The second fact to consider is that the assertion of a gun being present was made by the patron, Robert White, and not the employee of the establishment. Third, the dispatcher relayed the words heard on the open line to the responding police officers without proper context. Instead of one or two officers responding to a disturbance, which might be normally the case, you have up to a dozen responding very fast, blocking roads and establishing perimeters. The fact remains uncontested that Peter did not have a hand in perpetuating the gun myth in this situation, but this fiction is what drives a lot of the succeeding interactions. I feel it taints everything afterwards, and I'm not sure the remaining interactions are relevant to our role here as a liquor authority. The offending employee, Peter, had just, and to quote the officers, gotten his ass kicked and is likely not in his right mind. By all accounts, Corporal Carlson made physical contact with Peter, and when Peter flexed his arm or pulled it in, again, that's officer testimony, Corporal Carlson took that as a sign of resistance, though I would call it instinctual to pull your arm in. From there, we have a further jumble of events that I don't think anyone would recover from in order to display a professional attitude and demeanor. While I don't find Katie Cashman's testimony to be credible almost at all, I don't necessarily define it untruthful as to how she portrayed the situation to the actual licensee, Bill. I believe that's exactly what she told Bill. I think when Bill arrives on the scene, he does not need to be restrained. He stands where he's told and witnesses his son in a poor physical and mental state that from his distance matches the description he received from Katie Cashman over the phone. Bill states that Officer Kiefer approached him and stayed with him. At no point did I hear testimony that Officer Kiefer tried to take on another task or that Officer Kiefer had to take physical control. It's clear to me that Officer Kiefer was assigned to stay with Bill at the perimeter. That's the extent Bill impeded their investigation, by being present. Yes, he wanted information because it is his establishment and responsibility. Officers did not charge him, to my knowledge, of obstruction or impeding their investigation, nor do I think it was described. As it was described, would it amount to anything meaningful in that regard? So I'm very much taking the position, I think, that the defense makes a good point about the severity. I think going with a revocation is very heavy-handed. I think they are not. I think they are very responsive to what's happened. They've fired Peter. There's not going to be a reoccurrence because he's not there. If you're concerned about him getting drunk and coming into another establishment, I'd say that he could get drunk and go into any establishment, whether it's his dad's establishment or not. And I'd like to hear other thoughts now.
I thought Mr. Dell put it very well, and I agree with a lot of his points. Excuse me. I do think there's been a pattern that we've seen, and there's been violence, and there's been a lot of the undue noise, rowdiness, intoxication. So I do believe there's been a pattern, and I do believe that the conduct has been, that the law has been broken in that sense. I am not leaning towards revocation. I am leaning more towards some education, because in the end, it is a licensee that is responsible for the employees and the premises. You have been here before, and we have given you a fine. I would like to see some education in possibly management, employee-employer relations. That can be determined. But that's the way I am thinking about this, trying to make it. And maybe that's the mother in me that's coming out, trying to take a situation and make it a learning experience. I too feel bad that you had to go through this with Peter. That's your son. And I hope he is going to be getting the help that he needs with his drinking and with his anger. I think that was a good thing that, he's been let go. But I also think we need to take some more steps to make sure nothing like this happens again in the future.
Do you have specific things that you would recommend?
As a matter of fact, I do. I talked to Arapahoe Community College about a hypothetical situation, and they actually have workforce training. And what this program does is it meets with whoever needs to have the training, and they help you come up with a course in the areas that you might, benefit from. It can be anywhere from 2 hours to, they said, 6 weeks, 1 employee to all your employees. That's something to be determined. One of the things they would look at, though, is some of the issues that we've addressed, some of the patterns we've seen, and they would help come up with some suggestions on what, might benefit you. Maybe something like customer service. We know we have some customers that love you. We know that we also have some instances where there's been problems with customers. We all could probably use some customer service. Employee relations. Now, you have a different way of handling your managers and general managers. Maybe we need a little bit more concrete guidelines for them. I don't know. Business etiquette, community relations. They sit down and come up with a program that's tailored, custom-made for the client. And that's what I'd like to see. You could go to them, talk to them. We could impose how many hours we think you need. You could talk to them. The two of you could come up with, a course, bring it back to us. We can give it our approval.
I think I'd like to similarly walk through some overall thoughts on the case. No doubt, we did hear a lot of testimony, a lot of evidence, a lot of it in direct conflict. I think, obviously, I voted in favor of a finding of a violation. I think there's a lot of information that was presented to us that I have a hard time weighing because of the conflicting evidence, but I do want to walk through my thoughts on the criteria on aggravating and mitigating factors. Seriousness of the violations, affront to the public. I do think this is a very serious violation. I don't think it's just a fight in a bar. True, there are fights in bars. People drink in bars. That sometimes leads to fighting. And we deal with that issue. We decide whether or not the establishment had a role in it, whether or not they called the police. We don't bring sanctions against people just for fighting in a bar. I think the fact that Peter was an employee, that he instigated the overall action, I think brings it to a different level of seriousness than a fight between patrons. I think that as far as an affront to the public, obviously, if a patron has to get involved based on his uncomfortableness with the way a manager, supervisor is treating an employee, that's an obvious affront to the public. Ms. Cashman herself admitted that that's not the way she would like to see an employee of the establishment conduct themselves. I don't think that's in question as far as the facts of the case. So I think, and I appreciate your comments about the patron and the comment of the gun and what that did to escalate the situation. I still think that Peter's behavior that night rose to a high level of seriousness. So I would consider that an aggravating factor. As far as B, corrective action, no doubt it's a mitigating factor that they did fire Peter. That obviously, because Peter was the instigator of the action, that I believe that is a mitigating factor. Prior violations and offenses, I think that's an aggravating factor. The licensee has been here before us. Violation as a repeated course of conduct or as a single event. I think this goes to a larger problem that I see that could fit either under that criteria or under L, which is other factors making the situation with respect to the licensee or the premises unique. The testimony we heard from the licensee and the mistrust with police gives me concern. I think that's an aggravating factor. I think that the level of mistrust, and I don't entirely place that responsibility on the licensee, but I think that no doubt he has indicated that there is a high level of distrust. And I think that's an aggravating factor in the potential for a recurrence of a violation. I think hardship on the licensee for the sanction imposed, I would see that as mitigating, depending on what we decide. I do also think under L, other factors, I agree that that the portrayal of the licensee's behavior that night, I can certainly appreciate that it must have been very difficult to see his son in that condition. So I see those as, I see the portrayal of those facts of his behavior on the night as a mitigating factor, though again, I'm concerned by his testimony here in front of the authority at a later time. No doubt it's still an emotionally charged issue, but his description of the police mistrust of them certainly makes me question, for example, if there were a fight in the bar, is he going to call them? That I think that's an aggravating factor. So in my mind, certainly more aggravating than mitigating factors.
Might I interject real quick? Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the meeting past 10 p.m. to wrap this up.
Second.
I think we'll go on until we finish this. I just have a brief comment to make after.
Can we just get a quick vote on that motion?
Oh, I'm
There's a
sorry.
motion
That
on the
is.
table.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize. Yeah, we did. Was that a motion?
Motion to continue.
Yeah, and I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm not going to be repetitive. I've listened to so much testimony and looked at so much information and have spent hours of time thinking about this case. And it boils down in my mind to 2 points. One, there was a violation. The ownership of this establishment did not keep the kind of control over their establishment that they are supposed to. Number two, I reject any implication that there's a vendetta between the Littleton Police Department and this family. Things have happened, and there have been consequences. And I'm not able to judge who's right and who's wrong in that. Finally, I think the ownership has taken proper action in eliminating Peter from the business. I would love to see you go further and completely separate him. He's done you great harm. I know he's your son, but he's done you great harm. He's put your livelihood in jeopardy. They did not, we did not Peter did. So I would insist, as any condition, that we impose less than a revocation of your license, that Peter not be allowed in the establishment. Having said that, I will say that I can think of no way that I can vote to revoke this license. I will vote to impose a penalty, a reasonable penalty, if someone proposes it. If not, I will. But that's my position. I get one vote, just like everybody else.
Well, my proposal is going to be that we have Bill and all management from the old mill go.
Speaking to the microphone.
Sorry. My suggestion would be that we have Bill and all management go to the workforce training. Instead of doing a fine.
Instead of doing, wait, well, as the only sanction?
I think the only way to work that, if you were to find a way to do it, is to specifically call out a program and the stipulations with that. I would, in that case, recommend a 21-day suspension, 7 days actively served, 7 days in abeyance, and another 7 days that can be moved to abeyance upon completion of such training. That's the only way I can see how that would work. I think when we make these motions, we have to have a hook.
Mm-hmm.
Let's work our way down. Is there anyone who is going to make a motion to revoke this license?
Not me.
Not I.
I'm not going to make a motion that we revoke the license, but I will say that I think that the seriousness goes far and above the guidelines for a second violation. And I have concerns about the likelihood of recurrence.
For me, I think one of the things that I would like to see is an agreement by the licensee to get the surveillance cameras working, get everything that protects you from the things that you describe. I mean, that's common sense. So if you have people with a good reputation and you really genuinely feel this way, the only thing that doesn't lie is physical evidence.
So you're suggesting 14-day suspension with 7 days held in abeyance for 1 year?
I said 21.
21?
And then follow the guidelines for the 14 days traditionally, and then the other 7 would either be actively served or they would avert that by completing some recommended training that you are suggesting.
Do you have any suggestions on how we would be wording this?
I don't agree with that motion.
Okay.
I want 7 days to be served.
7 days
And recommend the
suspension?
training, make a strong recommendation for the training, but I don't want to give up the days served in exchange for that. I'd rather go with 14 days, 7 days served.
I have concerns about about the ability to enforce a training. I also just think philosophically that we're here to look at the facts, decide on aggravating and mitigating factors. Obviously, we have it available, so I'm not saying that it's not something that we have available to us to enter into conditions, but I think it sort of muddies the water. And like I said, I certainly think the seriousness of the violation and the likelihood of recurrence would rise well above 7 days. That's my thought.
And I recall a different establishment that we had some problems with, and one of the things it boiled down to in our dealing with that establishment is that we're not here to run the establishment for people. We're not here to tell them how to run their establishment. We all agreed to that with the other establishment that we made that point in. And I feel it would be difficult for us to enforce the training. How would we know that they did it? If they didn't do it, are we going to bring them back in here? I'd rather just make it clean right now. Let's suspend their license for 14 days and put 7 days in abeyance. And if they come back within a year, they're going to do the other 7 days plus whatever they've been charged with. That could be a substantial penalty. I also think that we should not include in that the possibility of a fine in lieu of suspension. So I'll make a motion. Based on the foregoing evidence and testimony concerning factors in mitigation and aggravations, I move that the liquor license of Vasilios Frangiskakis, doing business as Old Mill Brewery, 5798 South Rapp Street, be suspended for a period of 14 days, with 7 days to be held in abeyance for a 1 year period, and that during such period there be no further violation of the Colorado Liquor Code and associated regulations and or the Littleton City Code, and that notices of such suspension will be posted in and outside of the licensed premises in accordance with the Liquor Code Regulation 47-600F, and that the suspension be served beginning, we'll have to determine that date. I'm going to say, you have a calendar?
It has to be 30 days out, so you got to start here on the March.
March 11th through March 25th. No, the serve sentence, March 11th through March 17th. Yes, that's 7 days. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion?
For the purposes of discussion, I think that the guidelines are sort of a baseline. Again, I have serious concerns about the seriousness of the violation, the likelihood of recurrence. So I think I'll be a no on the motion. I think we have to be above the baseline guideline. So I intend to vote no. If it doesn't pass, I would suggest we add more days of suspension at least, and also possibly if there is an appetite to hold a portion of it in abeyance, to do so for longer. So I'll be a no on the motion.
So what we have to do now is vote on the motion that's on the table, and if that's voted down, we'll have to work on another motion.
How many days did you say again?
14,
14 days, 7 in abeyance, as recommended in the discussion that we had earlier.
And again, I mean, I don't want to just keep repeating myself, but I don't think we should get a lot of testimony, a lot of facts, a lot of conflicting information, but I don't think we should lose sight of the seriousness of the violation. It was an employee of the establishment, at the very least, baseline, no doubt about it, no facts disputed. It was an employee of the violation, or an employee of the licensee. And I do have ongoing concerns about likelihood of recurrence. I guess my point is that I think the aggravating factor is far outweigh the mitigating, which is why I think we have to be above the guidelines, the recommended guidelines.
City Clerk?
Authority Chair Bradish.
Yes.
Vice Chair Cole.
No.
Authority Member Levere.
Yes.
Authority Member Mather.
Yes.
Authority Member Odell.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Your license will be suspended for 14 days. 7 of those days will be held in abeyance, as is worded here. The suspension that you serve will begin on March 11th of this year.
Thank you. Thank you for the time. Is there anything else I need to?
I highly recommend.
We'll do that voluntarily.
What, me? I'm getting an email. What?
I highly recommend that you don't come in this room again when we're here.
If we could get information on that program, I think that's something that we'll.
This was a very difficult decision for us to make, and I'm convinced that it was a fair decision. There's an awful lot of mercy in it for you, and I hope you won't forget that.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much.
I'll write that down for you. Okay.
Staff reports?
Yeah.
Can you do that after the meeting so we can go ahead and adjourn this meeting, please?
Let's see.
Can we adjourn?
Adjourn.
Yeah, do we, unless we have any
Would
staff
you like
or,
to go home? There being no further business before the authority, this hearing is closed.